Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's week two. I'm James Marcuzzo, your host. We're going to talk about the Haidt and Lukianoff article from The Atlantic in 2015, titled How Trigger Warnings Are Hurting Mental Health on Campus. This is written 2 years before the other article that I cover, Why It's a Bad Idea to Tell Students That Words Are Violence. That was written in 2017. They very much fit together. They're talking about the same thing. So, the concern is mental health of students on college campuses. But why are we concerned about their mental health? Well, there's some weird stuff going on, and I'll try to nutshell it for you. So, both of these have a historical explanation. One of them is more institutional, right? Top down, sort of systemic. I hate using that term, but it works in this one. The other one is kind of grassroots from the ground up. It's the experience of the students over time. So, microaggressions and trigger warnings are manifestations of very toxic, unhealthy thinking. Seeing insults and offense where there is none intended, or stopping people from having exposure to anything that might be disagreeable or conflict with their view of the world or of themselves, or even as far as, you know, if you actually have some sort of PTSD from a traumatic experience, then they would prevent you from coming into contact with information or ideas that would trigger that. And psychologically speaking, that's a terrible mistake. In a safe setting like a university, you would want to incrementally expose someone to ideas or concepts they would otherwise find triggering, right, in small doses, to acclimate them to the idea that that idea can't hurt you. The thing hurt you, but the idea cannot. And then you are fortified against it, right? That's a little bit of that anti-fragile concept. But where did this all come from? Okay. First, we have a bad philosophy / bad ideology called critical theory, which is currently prevalent in our society, and it is one of the most toxic. This is like civilization destroying bad idea. I don't say that lightly at all. I'm not being hyperbolic. Critical theory is very bad. It developed over time. It came out of postmodernism, but it very much encourages emotional reasoning. If you are in power, you're evil. If you are not in power, you are virtuous. Right? These are very, very unnuanced ways of understanding the world, or factually wrong, depending. And there is no point to objective reality or to science or to facts. Those things don't matter, because if you believe a thing strongly enough, then that's what matters. And so this is where we get ideas like, you have invalidated my existence, or you're denying my identity, you know. So, critical theory in the institutions, in social sciences, okay. But the students, they also bring some baggage in as well. There's a few things here. So, 60s, 70s, 80s, we had some high-profile kidnappings and murders of children, young people, at a time when the television was widely found in American society. And so people perceived there of being this great threat to their children where there really wasn't one, right? But because of that, the ability to see it on the TV made it feel more real. So we had this increase in a desire to protect children. We had this great risk-averse sort of culture take over, and it manifested in many ways. One of which, and most importantly for our purpose here, is the idea that parents were much more prevalent in their children's lives on a regular basis. In previous generations, it was very common for children to be out by themselves until the streetlights came on, and then they would be expected to come home. And in that time, that free play time, they would fight, they would argue, they would negotiate, they would play games, they would develop games, and they would develop rules together and agree or disagree. They would develop conflict resolution tools, right? Mechanisms. Children are losing out on those experiences and on those developmental experiences as a result of this overprotection and this helicopter parent mentality. Not everyone, but it's much more prevalent. Now, in the early 90s, you have a group of children, well, American children, children around the world, that are born into the age of the internet and into the age of social media. Social media is a very powerful tool it's got good aspects and it's got bad aspects. And our authors, in other material they've written and other research they've done, very much feel that social media is negative, a net negative for children especially. Girls a little bit worse than boys, but in both cases, social media increases depression, anxiety, loneliness, and suicide rates. And we see that across the Western world of that age group. So you've got these children that lack coping mechanisms, that are overly protected, that always rely on some authority figure to solve their problems. They go into the universities and they're exposed to this ideology where whatever you feel is right. If you feel victimized, if you feel oppressed, if you feel offended, if you're scared, then there's reason to be. Insane. Like I said, culture destroying. I did not say that lightly. Okay. Well, so that's actually a pretty sound and concise explanation of what they're concerned about here. The idea is that all of these experiences have led to some really bad psychological behavior that is both being brought to the table by the students, by the people, by the young people, and being encouraged by the schools. And it's this perfect storm. And they talk about cognitive behavioral therapy as a series of non-chemical, non-pharmaceutical thought processes to dissuade such catastrophizing, poisonous, unhealthy thinking. And hopefully that will win out in the end. I find this deeply fascinating, if you can't tell. And I've got so much more to say about it. So if any of you are interested, have any thoughts, questions, I'd be happy to engage. Please reach out. Otherwise, we will talk soon.